Hello and welcome back to What's Up Doc, the true crime documentary podcast. I am your host, Gemma Delaney, and I am here to tell you what is up with the latest true crime documentaries. This week's episode, funnily enough, you'll hear in a minute anyway, you'll know what I'm on about. It was one of the first episodes of season 3 that I recorded. It was recorded back in the Christmas breaks. There's a lot of talk of Christmas and New Year's resolutions. And also, for the love of God, please forgive me, the audio quality is absolutely shite because it was one of the first episodes I recorded via Zoom. So whereas normally I would obviously have guests in my little lair in my studio, this was all online and it was a learning curve. And thanks be to Jesus, I've gotten better at it. But yeah, not so hot with the audio quality on this one. But forgive me the audio quality because I think what I make up in my knowledge of Zoom recording back then, I hopefully have made up for in the caliber of guest. For this particular episode, I had none other than, social media comedian and sensation, Sir Stevo Timothy, better known, of course, as Farmer Michael, and his partner in crime, Roxy, who, of course, is better known as his long-suffering daughter, Mary Bridget. The guys joined me in this earlier episode of season 3 to discuss the Netflix sensation, Don't Fuck With Cats. And I mean, look, hilarity ensued. What could possibly go wrong? 2 comedians from Galway and a documentary about, a psychotic social media celebrity wannabe / serial killer. So look, hope you enjoy this episode. Apologies for the audio quality, but like I said, hopefully the banter and the laughs will more than make up for it. Guys, thanks for joining me. Thanks for agreeing to join me. Did you have a nice Christmas and a nice New Year's?
Nice,
Quiet.
Yeah. Nothing spectacular, nothing, just family and turkey and
more family and more turkey
and more roses and Quality Street and celebrations.
There's still going on.
Yeah.
That's the most Irish answer ever. Nice and quiet. So nice. Everyone's saying the same. It's nice and quiet.
It wasn't bad. No, it wasn't bad.
And tell us this: have you made any New Year's resolutions?
Probably try not to be as perfect as I usually am.
That's a good one. I might adopt that as well.
It'll be very tough. It'll be very tough.
I haven't made any.
Just to be more awesome to me.
Yeah, that's not dissimilar from my one. I said I'm going to try to be kinder to myself. I think I'm my own worst critic. I think we're all guilty of that, though, aren't we? We're all very harsh on ourselves. So I was. If you were having your own problem, but if someone came to you with that problem, you'd be so empathetic to them. You are so shit to yourself.
You can never take your own advice.
Yeah. You're an asshole to yourself, and you're so much kinder to everyone else. And it's funny actually because I did an episode of What's Up Doc yesterday with Keith Walsh of Breakfast Republic, formerly of Breakfast Republic fame, and currently obviously of the Keith Walsh podcast. And he made a similar kind of thing as well. He's doing 100 days no booze. I don't know if you guys follow him on Instagram, but that's his thing at the moment. That's what he's running with. So he's about a year off the booze now, and that was his New Year's resolution last year, he said, and he decided to see if he could help some other people this year. So I thought that was interesting. But a lot of kind of self-helpy. We're gone very self-helpy this year, aren't we? Which isn't a bad thing. I'm totally in favour of that.
They're doing 100 days on the booze.
100 days on the booze.
Knives out and everything.
Yeah,
that could be a good idea for a video. That could be a good idea for a gig. I would be arrested on the second day.
The second day, you'd be arrested at the end of the first day.
Probably, the beginning of the first day.
Oh.
I'd like to see how that one would run. But guys, that's a nice little segue anyway, I think, into what we're going to be talking about today, which, I always think there's a correlation, and you may not agree, but there's a correlation between, an interest in helping yourself and self-help and psychology and true crime as well. Because I think if you're interested in psychology, they all fall under the bracket. There might be opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're all, that's where it stems from. That's what I tell myself anyway, so that I don't think, I'm just some kind of pervert with some morbid kind of fascination with death and murder and serial killers and all that kind of thing. It's psychology.
We humans have this fascination with people that have different brains.
Yeah.
So I have a fascination with people who are genius. I have a fascination with people who are serial killers. I have a fascination with people who are psychopaths or sociopaths, because we don't think like that. So it's very hard for us to understand how their brains operate, because we don't. So it's that kind of whole thing that we're fascinated by the other and fascinated by what we can't imagine.
What we can't imagine or understand.
Yeah, most of us can't imagine what it's like to murder someone and not give a shit. Mm-hmm. But then again, you're back into the territory then of, the level of blame that can be thrown against them if you're born that way, and if human life, killing a human, is to you the same reaction emotion-wise of putting out the bins.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Obviously you can and they can't be let, but it goes back to that whole thing of how much blame do they share if you're born like that, and and the whole thing as well of like a lot of serial killers, and it goes back to childhood. Like there's a massive correlation between their treatment in childhood. It might it's a predisposition. It might necessarily culminate.
It's that nature versus nurture, isn't it? It's back to that. Yeah. Well, look, without further ado, like I said, nice little segue into what we're talking about today, and that is, of course, Don't Fuck With Cats, or to give it its full title, Don't Fuck With Cats, Hunting an Internet Killer. This one, just to go through the really boring stuff first and get it out of the way, it's directed by a guy called Mark Lewis. Had you ever heard of him? No, I hadn't either, I'll be perfectly honest with you. And then I did the old Google. And like, he's got a huge back catalogue. He's got a massive, this guy has been working solidly at documentaries and predominantly true crime documentaries since like 1999. Never even heard of him. So it just goes to show. But like, I say huge back catalogue, nothing I've ever heard of. Most recent one, he's done something on the royal family, not necessarily true crime. But he's done ones on Waco.
Well, they are criminals anyway, aren't they?
Yeah. I was waiting for that. But like, he has done true crime, but he has a huge back catalogue, as I say. Just nothing I've seen personally. So don't feel so bad now you haven't seen any of his stuff or heard of him either. What would you say is the purpose of this documentary? What do you think is the message that the director is trying to get across?
To be as trying desperately to be as captivating and audience grabbing as possible.
It is a mindfuck, isn't it? Like, it's like if you didn't watch it, you wouldn't believe it, would you? It's stranger than fiction.
No.
Like,
but he does clutch straws a lot of the way through as well, and that usual suspect-esque ending where he tries to tie everything together in a whole Kaiser Soze. It's very, and obviously then in a weird way, the woman in it that's trying to track him down, she is in a other end of the spectrum. She is wanting the level of fame that he had in anonymity.
100% she is.
It's interesting. There's an interesting juxtaposition there between the two characters. Had you ever heard of this case before you watched the when the documentary came out, were you like, oh fuck, I've heard of this case, or was this completely new?
I remember the whole cat thing, and I actually do remember the two guys in the ice pick. I remember hearing about it, and I actually went to go on YouTube to watch it, and the video was already gone by the time I got onto it. But yeah,
you sick person.
Well, obviously you want to see what people feel like.
It's that morbid fascination, isn't it? That morbid fascination. Yeah. But I don't think I would have been able to watch the video, I'll be honest with you. I'm a big fan of the psychology and, like you were saying, the kind of fuckery of it, and just kind of been like, what makes someone's brain tick, because my brain doesn't tick like that. But I'm not great with gore. I'm not great with blood, which is great
really,
that none of that it doesn't have any of that in this documentary, which is great. I think a lot of people haven't watched it because of that.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, as you said, it doesn't really show that. It doesn't.
Yeah. But I've had so many people say that to me, like, oh, I wouldn't be able to watch that. It's too gruesome. And I'm like, actually, it doesn't actually show any, but it cuts off over and over again. But look, we digress. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We're going to go through a summary of the documentary. Stop me if you think I'm missing anything. Stop me if you want to put in a point or something. And likewise, I'll bounce things back to you and think what ye or ask you what you think about it. But I mean, it's not hard going. I mean, like most true crime documentaries are minimum 6, anywhere up to kind of 8 episodes long. This is 3 episodes long. They're between 45 minutes and an hour. You could binge it. You could have it gone in a day. You could have it gone in an evening. You could have double that done in an evening. So in this kind of binge society that we have. But I mean, it starts at the end, doesn't it? I mean, it starts with trying to hook you in. So, opening shots, it's body moving. It's Deanna Thompson in front of the camera and she's going, I could never have foreseen what would happen. And then it kind of shows like a quick kind of blurred clip of one of the videos. And then it shows a news report about, public enemy number 1. And I think it shows the Interpol arrest order or something like that. So instantly you're like, what the fuck? So that's the hook straight away, isn't it? Like, yeah,
definitely.
And then we're introduced to Deanna, who you correctly said is probably on the same spectrum maybe as the killer, but she's.
I'd say she has a lot of issues in her life. I wouldn't go as far as saying, like, when I say they don't mean it in a negative context, or I don't mean anything bad, but I think she suffers a lot with mental health.
Yeah.
She just seems like a person who have mental health issues.
Just the fact that she was so fixated on him.
I think that's kind of impressive, though. I think that's kind of impressive. Like, I mean, I wish I had that kind of drive to do anything in life. Like, let alone. I don't even know where you'd start or begin to start to go, do you know what? I'm going to solve a crime all from the comfort of my own home. Like that. I suppose she is a data analyst as well. She says that kind of in the first couple of minutes of the documentary. So I mean, look, and
we're all kind of amateur masters at that now, aren't we? Finding a person on Twitter that's anonymous, and then you click in, find their email, go to Facebook, whatever, put their email in a thing. It comes up in a comment, in a .ie article. There, have the name for them. Go into Facebook, search through 400 people. You find the person. You're like, I found them.
Yeah.
So like, with what we do, you become a kind of an amateur sleuth because you have to.
I love that word, sleuth.
You have to find one sleuthing. Bit of Agatha Christie sleuthing. So what we do, you don't have to do it, but you end up doing it.
You end up doing it because you're spending so much time online and so much time on social media that you definitely become adept in it, But so she's talking about she sat at home. I think she said she was going through like a bad breakup. It was 2010. She needed a distraction. It was the perfect storm. Everything kind of came together for her at the one time. And then somebody on Facebook one day sends her this link, and it's for a video titled "One Boy, Two Kittens," and she's like, cute video, deadly. Clicks on it, and of course that's not what it is at all.
Us internet savvy people, if we heard that title, we'd immediately think a negative thing.
Oh yeah,
and even worse, and probably worse, given the context of the original meaning of that.
Yes.
That original video. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have been so positive, sure of clicking on that.
And then it's like the video itself is like has John Lennon. So This Is Christmas, War Is Over is the music, and it's this guy with a Christmas jumper on. It's got a hood up. He's playing with kittens initially, and like again, not to go into too much graphic detail, but she sees him then putting the kittens into one of these vacuum packed bags with a Hoover, and the kittens obviously don't survive. So she is absolutely infuriated because being this you know, computer nerd, she knows rule number 1 on the internet, which I didn't even know, to be honest with you, before this, is you don't fuck with cats. Apparently, they're a no-go area. So she's scrolling down through the comments on the video and then notices that in the comments there's like this link to a Facebook group that somebody has set up, and it's group focused on trying to find out whoever this guy is. And she said they're all cracking up, like they're all going mad, and she notices one guy stands out because his comments aren't emotional. They're not like, we're gonna fucking kill this guy. They're just very factual, going, hang on now, what can we ascertain from this video? I don't know about you, but like how they look at the video, dissect it, cross-reference it, that to me was impressive. Do you wanna talk us through? I'm gonna shut up for a minute. Do you want to talk us through that? What did you think of that scene?
Oh, definitely. It was genius. Like there was like just things in the background. Yeah, things that.
Yeah, so on
where
the bed,
did this come
they had
from?
the wolf blanket.
I loved that. I loved that.
And they zoomed in, they were like, right, that's from North America. And then they were trying to see
what stores sell these things and where do you buy them online and what.
And then the vacuum, there's so fixated on the vacuum cleaner that she went to find where they sold this one vacuum cleaner.
I forgot about the vacuum cleaner, actually. Yeah.
That artist was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Everything.
So it was quite.
And it's like it's sold in this one store in this one part of the country. And what else was it? There was the locker, the door handles. They zoomed in everything. Lamp,
yeah. Yeah, it was quite ingenious. Just getting back to the earlier thing there, the rule. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that rule. Don't fuck with cats.
No.
So you can bat their headshots.
Yeah.
Just don't fuck with cats. You know what I mean? It's almost, don't fuck with animals or humans.
Yeah.
There's the rule of the
There you go.
But
they even done like a blueprint of the room from the video, what they can gather. He recreated where each bit of furniture was and what the furniture is. It was crazy how much they actually delved into that bedroom.
What I thought was fascinating, and it's a software I work with, and I wouldn't have even fucking thought of it, was how, I don't know if you remember, she says that I don't think it was her actually, it was somebody in the group who was kind of, tech savvy, uploaded the video, and then what they did was they printed out all the frame rates. I mean, that's what we do all day long in college, in TV and film production. That's what we're always working with in frame rates. It's like, that's so clever. I never would have even thought that. So that basically they printed off every single frame is an individual image. And that way they can scan through every time they turn, that's fascinating. That's, like I said, I thought that was so inspired and something I never would have thought of myself. And then, of course, this gave rise to the infamous meme that came out of it. What was it? I spent 16 hours looking at fucking doorknobs from Lithuania or something. That was like the quintessential meme that came out of that. And of course, that's where they're talking about that as well. And as you said then, Roxy, correctly, they ascertain eventually, I think it's the cigarette packet, right? It's the Surgeon General's warning on the packet.
And they could see it was an American warning, safety warning. Even I wouldn't even thought of that.
No. And they realize that he's been trying to, play kind of cat and mouse with them. He's been throwing them curveballs because, the telly in the background, I think, was playing, wasn't it a Russian sitcom or something?
A Russian sitcom,
Yeah.
I think it was some game show or something.
Yeah. Something like that.
I don't know. Yeah, it kind of plays into a negative stereotype as well, that we consider that any like that would come from Eastern Europe or Russia.
Yeah.
It's kind of
the bad guy, the Bond villain, isn't it? It definitely does. But
it plays into that. Like it's anyone that tortures animals or anyone that a kid that kills someone or stamps on a dog would definitely be from Russia or one of them.
He definitely set up a stage in it without knowing that he set up a stage. That sort of with that recording of the Eastern European and just the way everything was. In that room, it was just nice.
And then, of course, when they click on the profile of the user that posted it, they go on to his YouTube page, and there's nothing on it except one video that it's liked, and it is the trailer for Catch Me If You Can. Leonardo DiCaprio. So he's taunting them. Like, this guy wants to be followed. I think they say it several times through the documentary. He's given us breadcrumbs. And even the fact that he has fucked with cats, he's done that deliberately because he knows it'll get him some level of notoriety. It'll get him attention. And that's clearly what this guy is craving from the get-go.
He wants to get caught in the end because it defeats the purpose of his quest for infamy if he doesn't get caught.
Yeah.
You know, even some of the best serial killers ever, well, depends on what you mean by that. Best as in being the worst. But like they want to get caught. They will eventually contact the media if they feel like their infamy is being directed at a different person. They want to be caught eventually because they want to be the best at what they do, you know. And it's like,
well, what's the point?
Because he could have got away with just because he could have got away with killing numerous animals in thousands of videos, but you know.
I don't know if you remember then at this point, we're still on episode 1, there's a lot to talk about, but in this point in the first episode, it kind of takes then a dark turn. It takes an unfortunate turn, and that is that this crowd called Rescue Inc. get involved. They're these animal rights activist guys. They post a reward for 5,000. It gains a lot of traction. Everybody suddenly is an internet sleuth. Everybody is trying to hunt down this guy. They find this guy that they believe is the killer, the cat killer, and they go after him. And unfortunately, it's not the right guy. He's just an internet troll claiming that he is. And he look, whether it's as a result of this investigation or this guy's got his own demons, who knows? But he ends up killing himself as a result of it. And it's, you know, then I suppose Body Moving, or Deanna Thompson, to go by her right name, Body Moving is her online name. You know, she talks about that, how herself and the other kind of main investigator, John Green, they're trying to get them to listen, you know, that this isn't the guy. It's definitely not him. All of the evidence points, I think, to North America, as you were saying, with the cigarette packet and that. And this guy's like in Africa, and they're like, no, look, it's definitely not him. But they won't listen. And it's an unfortunate turn, and it just goes to show, I suppose, you know, what we've all come to learn in the last couple of years is just this powerhouse that is social media, for good, but for bad as well. It can just go so so fucking quickly. You know, people behind their keyboards, unfortunately, can go the other way as well. But look, that's kind of the turning point, I suppose, of episode 1, I would think. I don't know if you agree. They then get, it's just like your man gets pissed off at them then. He's sick of waiting around. They get a message from a random account saying the guy you're looking for is Luca Magnotta. Like, you know, just, hey, stop chasing the wrong guy. Find me already. And they search his name, and then all hell breaks loose. They're like, what the hell? How have we not heard of this guy before? He's a model. He's River Phoenix's first cousin. He's Sleep Madonna, apparently. And the images as well. Do you remember that, all these photos and all that they find of him? What were your thoughts when we got to this stage of the documentary, when suddenly you're being superstar?
I thought he looked really weird and creepy.
He does.
Really creepy.
Oh, so
like it wasn't even a real person. Like someone
dead behind the eyes. Dead behind the eyes, I think, is how I describe
like
it. You know,
created a human-looking picture.
Yeah.
And that was him. You know?
Yeah. It was just so weird.
If you love to be remembered as the person who gives the best birthday gifts, I'm here to tell you that 1-800-Flowers.com is your ultimate birthday gifting destination. 1-800-Flowers has thoughtful and artfully created options that are guaranteed to deliver the best birthday surprise. Shop thousands of unique gifts at 1-800-Flowers.com for exclusive offers and great values. To order today, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in.
And the way, like you said, you know, sleeping with Madonna and all that, he craved every ounce of attention he can get, and even made up a lot of it.
Oh yeah, he was living a complete life.
Yeah, he was. It was terrible.
Do you remember the bit where then, you know, obviously they're looking at all these pictures and they're realizing they're like really badly edited, and they're noticing that there's all these fan sites, but all of the people, the fans, are seem to be speaking in the same language, using the same punctuation in their typing.
All up himself.
Yeah.
Completely. And didn't he also enter a modeling competition?
Yeah.
It was like this, reality TV, modeling TV thing. Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen it. It was something based in Canada. But then do you remember the interview that he did with the Toronto Sun that they found 3 years beforehand? So he rings frantically into this radio station going, you know, all these rumors linking me romantically to Karla Homolka. So anybody listening who doesn't know who Karla Homolka was, she was one half of what was known as the Ken and Barbie killers. They were like, Jesus, I don't know if you've delved into that case. That's a whole other episode. Jesus, that was one of the first cases I ever really delved into. One that started kind of my love of true crime. That's all kinds of fucked up. That was, I mean, they murdered her sister, you know.
Yes.
It was one of them ones that never interested me, though.
Oh, I was mad into it.
I'm very traditional. Dahmer, you know, Bundy. You know, very Ridgway, you know.
That one was just crazy.
I'd agree with you. I'm more the ones that don't look like serial killers. The ones that look like me, I'm like, fuck, shit, you know. And they were young. They were arrested before they were 30, like.
Yeah. There's never any of them that look like what we'd consider a serial killer.
Maybe Richard Ramirez, though. Come on, with Richard the teeth. He looks like evil, like.
I hate to say it though, but he looked fucking cool. He looks so cool.
He was a good-looking guy, apart from the teeth. In fairness, his mouth is closed, all right looking.
He looks cool, but he looks like he would fucking kick the living shit out of you as well if you said that to him. Obviously, probably more than that too. But you know, he was all over the place. He didn't have a type. You know what I mean? And they're the most dangerous serial killers that don't have a type. They will do anyone, like fucking BTK and, you know, children, women, men, anything. Yeah. You know, and they're the
bloodlust, isn't it? It's that doesn't matter. It's just bloodlust. But yeah, so he rings us into this radio station and he's like, you know, people need to stop linking me with Karla Homolka. And obviously this is a radio station in Canada and that whole case took place in Canada. And she is just the devil incarnate up there. Like, you can't mention her name. So this obviously would be headline grabbing as well. And this obviously grabs Deanna and John's attention because they're like, who the hell is this guy? And he's talking about how his life is spinning out of control and he's getting death threats and he's had to move. But they just don't buy it. They're still like, is he just making up all this? Like, you know, because they're after following this online pattern, this online trail, I suppose, that maybe the likes of the Toronto Sun hadn't done. They're just taking this guy's word. Why would you lie about it? There's no reason to associate yourself with that type of person. And then we find ourselves at kind of the end of episode 1. And that, of course, then is where, again, I don't know if you remember or not, there's another video goes up and this time it's uploaded. The username is Leslie Ann Downey. And like you said, if you're a fan of the traditional serial killers, she, of course, was one of the victims of the Moors murders. Ian Brady and Moira Hindley. So instantly they're going, again, this guy is trying to associate himself with famous serial killers and he's showing an interest and a knowledge of that, which is obviously disturbing. And he says that next time you see me, I'll be in a video with humans, not pussies. That's the chilling bit. And then the last kind of bit, or the last frames or last scene of episode 1 is firstly Deanna receiving the link to, do you remember this? The casino that she works in. So she sees someone, it's just a link sent to her and it's a video, just a home video camera scanning through the casino that she's the data analyst in, as in, you know, we fucking know where you are. And then there's a video uploaded and it's the one lunatic, one ice pick. So it ends on a cliffhanger, which I love. I love that because I'm not going to stop watching. I'm going to put on the next episode. And I think they do a good job. Mark Luce, director, does a good job of hooking you in, and you're not going to stop at one, are you? You're going to binge watch the 3 episodes. Yeah. So into the next episode, then episode 2, Obviously, the murder has occurred. This murder that, you know, Deanna and John have been kind of shouting from the rooftops. They've promised this, and they've all along in episode 1 as well. They're there trying to get the attention of the police. The police just don't want to know. They think they're these just online nerds, really, don't they? They really dismiss them. They don't, you know, listen to anything they have to say. But I thought this was interesting because one lunatic, one ice pick. Like, okay, trying to forget what we know about the case now. When you first watched this, if you can cast your minds back, when you heard that title even, what was the first thing you thought of?
Gore.
Gore, yeah.
Gore, insanity.
When I heard ice pick, I instantly said Basic Instinct. Because, I mean, that's popular culture. What else? What other, you know, we don't use, well, I don't fucking use an ice pick, you know, in Wexford. I don't have any great need for them. Was
it an ice pick, though?
It wasn't. It was a screwdriver. Do you remember that he had spray painted silver?
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
But he titled it One Ice Pick. When I heard that title, that was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah, that was very, you know, if you're going to do one ice pick, one lunatic, one ice pick, get a fucking ice pick. You know what I mean? Otherwise you're letting yourself
down. Being a cheap picker.
I wouldn't tell
the production qualities just weren't up to par.
Yeah, if I was going to put up a video titled One Lunatic, One Hammer, I'm not going to have, a shovel. You know what I mean? Be authentic, be proper. He's really poor at what he's doing, and I 2 out of 10.
Oh my God! 2 out of 10 would not recommend.
Would not return again to be slaughtered.
Well, like, this is the thing. I've never even seen Basic Instinct. There's full disclosure for you. But when I heard ice pick, I was like, that's the only other time I think in my life I've heard anyone referencing ice pick. So obviously that comes into play later in the documentary. But no, I just wondered what she, did. Was it the same for you guys? Because, like, we're Irish. When the fuck would you ever need to use an ice pick? That was my instant correlation with the word. And then the song and the video as well. Like, I don't think I can ever listen to New Order again, because every time I hear that feckin' song, all I think now is of that video and obviously of this guy's subsequent murders. Ruined New Order for me. Ruined War Is Over. Couldn't listen to that this Christmas either. But they notice, of course, that song, it's a song that he's used time and again in some of his picture montages on YouTube channels and on his various fan accounts. So it's going back to this breadcrumbing thing that we previously spoke about that he's doing throughout. Yeah. And look, do you want to talk us through then the finding of the body, or do you remember that when the body obviously is found in suitcases kind of behind an apartment block, and they find bits and pieces there as well, and it's gruesome. Like, it's
then they see the CCTV footage of him getting rid of it and bringing down the bits and stuff, as far as I remember, and trying to think of animal-based puns to try and.
But it was so cold. When you watch the CCTV of him bringing down the bags, it was just so cold.
Yeah.
It was like, bring down my bag of rubbish. That's all I'm doing. There was no, like, remorse or anything. It was just so.
You'd almost have to think that he did have emotion when killing the person, because he's not a traditional killer or serial killer. And I'd say he did have emotion, but the drive to be known and the drive for infamy overcame that.
I'd agree with you.
Whereas
100%.
Psychopath. I think the drive for infamy just overplayed any emotional context or any emotional connection he had with victims, whether it be animal or human.
Mm-hmm.
The drive to be infamous overplayed that. Whereas a normal serial killer just wouldn't have any emotional, because their brain, they have an inability to do it. They just don't. They've done studies where they've shown them pictures of people getting slaughtered or a flower, and the same electrical signals going. There's nothing there. So I think I'm disappointed with him. I think he could have done better.
And then, like, they're talking about, obviously, I don't know if you remember or not, the detective. First name was Claudette. I can't remember her second name for the life of me. But anyway, Claudette, she's talking about how they're going through the suitcases, and obviously in the suitcases they find the torso, but the head, feet and hands are missing, but the rest of the body is there. And then they find blood kind of dripping from these bags behind the suitcases. Do you remember this? And they find, of course, the dead puppy, which subsequently is in that video as well. They find a blanket stained with blood, and they find Luca's driver's license. I mean, come on! He's not even, he's.
Yeah.
It's so deliberately sloppy, and yet they still don't catch him for another bit. You know what I mean? It's a bit infuriating. I thought. I don't know if you agree with me there, but you're kind of like, what the fuck has to happen for you to find this guy? For starters, for the last 18 months, you've had these, all right, like I said, they probably were just like nerds, but these guys online going, this guy is killing cats. I know it's hard to find a jurisdiction as well, because when things are happening online, like who's responsible? What, do you go to Galway Garda Station? Do you go to Wexford Garda Station? They fucking laugh at you. You don't know who to talk to. I do understand that, but so he's literally getting to the point where he's like, here, and just hands them his ID. His ID is there, his driver's license of all things. And with the driver's license, then they're able to get his address. His address is in the building that the suitcases and all the remnants are found behind. They go into the apartment 208. It's spotless. It stinks of chemicals. So thanks be to God, they use their brain and they're like, right, we need a warrant to check this place. And then, as you correctly said, they see that CCTV footage of him. Do you know what absolutely freaked me out? I thought it was just chilling. Like you were saying how cold he was. Do you remember in that CCTV footage? Remember him fixing his hair in the mirror in the foyer of the apartment block?
He's just
Your man's body was still upstairs.
Yeah.
That's insane. Just so cold and just so...
Yeah.
You think he'd done that deliberately because he realised he was being on CCTV?
Oh, 100%.
It's so hard to know, isn't it? Yeah.
I think he was, because he was so full of vanity.
Yeah.
He's incredibly self-aware, so it's hard to believe anything, that he's doing anything and not thinking he's been watched, if that makes sense. Yeah. His whole life is a show, whether he knows there's CCTV footage is there, the cameras are there or not. I think he at least leads his life like he is constantly on camera, if that makes makes sense. And then the next thing, randomly, the 2 feet been sent to the Conservative Party headquarters and the other one to the Liberal Party headquarters up in Canada, and we get that lovely footage there of whatchamacallum, the hunky Canadian guy, Justin Trudeau, talking on the telly. So they get a foot sent to them. Like, then he starts trying to get quite political. That was a bit random, I felt. It's just...
I just thought he'd get more infamy if he gets politicians dragged into it and gets the government involved. Obviously, if he sent it to Patrick Murphy down the road, it's not going to have a big as impact.
No.
So he's putting all his eggs in one basket. That's fun.
And then it moves on to his ma. His ma is the next star of the show, as far as I'm concerned.
She is another level.
There is the explanation for why the way he is.
100%.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. We're going back to the nature versus nurture. I through my research, I found out some things about the family as well. And not just the family, about Luca himself as well, that weren't mentioned in the documentary. But I might touch on them at the end of the podcast. But what did you make of the ma? What did you make of Anna?
She's just
another level.
Yeah.
There's no way to describe her, but another level.
Yeah, something very much wrong with her. Something
100%.
off and odd, and
she's in her own little world.
You nearly have sympathy for her son when you listen to the mom. And that's
you can only imagine the kind of upbringing you would have had with her.
There's an expression we'd use around here. I don't know if you use it in Galway. We'd say she's ahead the ball.
Ahead the ball, a full loader.
full on Luthramon, like she is. She's I would assume, to look at her, she's quite young looking, so I'm going to take a stab in the dark and assume she's had Luca quite young in life as well. But she does definitely seem, she seems like a child of the 60s, even though I'm saying she's probably born quite, you know, she's had him quite young and she's quite young herself. She seems a bit spacey, a bit, you know, child of hippies kind of, doesn't she? You know, or am I being really now making, you know,
no,
sweeping generalizations? But that's what I got from her. Like, she just seems absolutely airhead.
She'd be a follower of Gemma O'Doherty.
Oh,
Got a shot over that.
Yeah. She's.
That's more death threats coming to me now from the far right in Ireland.
Yeah,
Bring it on. Bring it on.
I'll be getting them now too. I've had death threats before. We'll talk about that later. Yeah,
I've got loads of them from them people.
If you're online at all, you have to be willing to take the old death threats. I think it doesn't matter what you say.
I became a meme.
At least you know they're listening. Do you know what I mean? At least.
I became a meme and went like mega viral about a thing about free speech when my Facebook got taken down because they were laughing at me.
Yeah.
But like, my Facebook is back, so who had the last laugh? You know.
Who had the last laugh? Gemma O'Doherty. What are you at? But so like the Ma is, she's definitely one of these 5Gers, I would imagine. And she's in another sense, I suppose, a quintessential Ma who thinks her son can't do any wrong. Yeah. She doesn't believe that he's guilty at all. So she says, if I remember correctly, she's like, you know, these animal rights activists, these armchair sleuths, you know, they're as bad as stalkers. They, you know, absolutely ruin people's lives online. But she's not, you know, people do that as well, as we've seen in the previous episode. She's not incorrect. And unfortunately, I suppose she's right to that degree, and that probably then reinforces every other thing she believes to be right. But she just doesn't believe that her son is responsible at all. Then I suppose it kind of jumps back from our initial introduction. So she comes on the screen kind of talking about how the police are pounding on her door, and she says, which I thought was interesting, is this about the cat videos, signifying she knew about the cat videos. She knew this much. Like, I don't know, if you saw videos of your kid murdering kittens,
I'd slap him around the place.
100%.
I think I'd be going to the guards myself, because I mean that's the first step. They always say that's Freudian shit. That's the first step to killing, murder, serial killer. They say if you can kill an animal or torture an animal, it's not a huge jump to a human being. But this video then of the murder goes absolutely viral, and as a result of it becoming viral, that's how the police in Canada become aware of it. And this detective that I've been talking about, Claudette, she sees the video, and God, there's no nicer way to say this, really, is there, lads? Like, he's playing with the head in the bathtub. Do you remember this bit? And it bobs around. Now, they don't show this, but they describe it. It bobs around into full view. And at this point, that detective, Claudette, completely breaks down on camera and asks them to stop. And I don't know about you, but I was just like, this one is a homicide detective. Imagine the shit she's seen in her career. And she's breaking. Yeah. It's very telling, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, it's just, I suppose, you know, it's disturbing because we focus on her and him, but we never really think of the victim. It's like when people glamorize Ted Bundy and they always conveniently glide over the little girl he killed.
Yeah.
They always go on about the women and stuff like that, and that's going, flamboyant, blah, blah, charismatic. They never really mention the young girl thing. You know, and that's because then you can't dwell on his charisma, and you have to face the fact that he was an evil monster. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they want to glamorize him because he was good looking and charismatic and so on and so forth.
And it's really true, and I suppose it happens a lot, doesn't it? We're all guilty of that, of, you know, focusing on, because again, I guess the baddie is the more interesting, because that's the person we don't associate with, as you know said at the head of the podcast. It's right, you know, probably maybe, don't think too much about the victim because, again, geez, there's no nicer way to say it, but it's a less interesting story. We don't get sucked in. It's the dynamics, it's the psychology of the killer.
Yeah, we're obsessed with abnormal psychology. I know when I was studying psychology, that's what I was obsessed with.
Yeah.
Abnormal psychology is the bit I loved. That going back to the early days of the early advances and early things about the mind and psychology and the railway track with your man and forget his name, but all that and Piaget and it's all going back to that kind of early days of understanding the mind and understanding who humans are and what makes them tick.
Yeah.
So just obsessed with abnormal psychology and serial killers fit that thing because it's the mind in a state that we can't understand.
It really is.
I'm obsessed with people that are geniuses as well, because it's just a thing that I'll never be able to. I can appreciate it, but I'll never be able to understand it.
I'd say as well, though, it's a fine line, isn't it? It's a fine line between genius and madness. So, if you're interested in one side of it, you're going to be interested in the other. I think that's a really natural progression from one to the other.
And a lot of genius is there, Matt. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I think that's why, I like Deanna. I like body movement in that. I am so impressed. One part of me is she's batshit crazy, dedicating so much time to this. But I'm also impressed that she has the ability to do that. Because like I said earlier, I don't think I've ever had the ability to be that focused on anything in my life, let alone, there's no reason for her to do this, really. She doesn't have an emotional or a personal connection with this person, but she sets out herself and John Green to solve this crime. And I think going back to the case, like you said, what happens then with, they're able to see that when the head bobs around, it's an Asian guy, mid-30s. They then check the missing persons records. They find this John Lynn who was missing for about 60 hours, and then he was reported obviously missing to the police. And then when they hear all this, herself, Deanna and John, they see the breaking news. They say John Lynn is the victim or the supposed victim. That her mind then goes to, okay, what can I ascertain from this video again? And she goes, right, there's a dead puppy in the video. He had to have gotten that ad somewhere. Where have I seen him actively, or what have I seen him actively using online? He uses Craigslist a lot. Right, I'll go on and search for ads for free puppies. Even that she thought to do that. That's there's a level of genius there, surely. That's incredible. I would never think to do that. So she goes onto Craigslist. She finds this posting, this guy looking for free puppies, and she realizes again that it's Luca because, like I said, he has this particular punctuation. He always spells probably incorrectly, and he always does this. What is it? He puts a comma between the word, or he puts a space, I should say, between the word and the comma and the next word. If that makes sense, it's space, comma, as opposed to just word, comma, space. So she can always, know that it's him. There's again.
If you love to be remembered as the person who gives the best birthday gifts, I'm here to tell you that 1-800-Flowers.com is your ultimate birthday gifting destination. 1-800-Flowers has thoughtful and artfully created options that are guaranteed to deliver the best birthday surprise. Shop thousands of unique gifts at 1-800-Flowers.com for exclusive offers and great values. To order today, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in.
What, yeah?
I'd be more angry at his disastrous grammar than anything else.
Maybe that's why she tried to find him. Maybe she's like a grammar Nazi. She's like, that's
what it was.
Probably. But she goes searching. She finds the ad that he posted looking for a free puppy, and then she finds the ad that he posted guys looking for guys. So she finds obviously how he found John Lynn. And then it's kind of, again, you know, there's this stage in each episode, and again, I think this is the bit where it takes the dark turn. It goes back to the detective, and she's talking about they get the warrant for the apartment, and they go in and they close the curtains and they put the luminol all over the place, and she said it lights up like a discotheque, I think is the word she uses. Last used in 1970.
The discotheque.
Yeah, and she says like how, because of the luminol, she said it's like I'm watching the murder taking place, because obviously you just follow the luminol trail, so she can see where the murder took place because of the blood spatter on the bed and the walls. She can then see the drag marks into the bathroom. You can see where he's hacked off everything in the bathtub while the torso is leaning against the door, and there's the perfect impression of this guy's torso against the, like, it's just I think as well, because a really interesting insight into, you know, the workings of it as well, because sometimes these things they're kind of glanced over in documentaries, aren't they? Or true crime documentaries. Yeah.
Well, unless you watch FBI Files or Forensic Detectives, then
and I do. I love that.
Luminol, they were obsessed with just mentioning luminol. Everything was luminol.
There's a drinking game with that as well. You take a shot every time you say luminol.
Got a tea for you.
A shot of actual luminol.
Luminol. You're glowing by the end of it.
Yeah.
But so like she talks about that, and then I suppose that's the end kind of there. That's coming towards the end of the second episode. It's when then as well, I don't know if you remember that, again, I don't know how her mind works or how she thinks to even do this, but she searches, like we said earlier, New Order, True Faith is the song in the background. So she sticks that into Google, and obviously that comes up as being on the soundtrack for American Psycho.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she realizes that, you know, watching American Psycho, you know, Christian Bale's character, he's very handsome, he's very suave, he dresses very well, he always presents himself very well, but obviously he's a serial killer behind it all. And she realizes that he's trying to emulate this guy. And then John, the other kind of main armchair sleuth, and it's a pity because there was a whole group of these, but these were the two kind of head honchos. There was a whole Facebook group of these guys, but these are the two that the documentary kind of focuses on. And John says that they figure out where he is. This is the whole thing. Where is he? Because he's putting up these videos, but where the hell is he? What police department do you contact? And they realize then that in the murder video, when he kills John Lynn, he's first of all on a bed. Do you remember this? He's got his hands tied above his head, and there's the Casablanca poster in the background. So John is like, wait a minute, Casablanca. So they stick that on, watch it. And then the end scene in Casablanca, Humphrey Bogart's character says, we'll always have Paris, or whatever that famous line is. It's often misquoted. And then they're like, he's fucking in Paris. Like, that seemed quite a jump, didn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know how they were that sure, or if there was some other evidence that they kind of left out.
I wonder what's coincidental and what they are wishing to be. Like, a French Canadian going to Paris is not unusual. You know,
it's not that big of a stretch.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's not, it's not a thing that might be that mad. It'd be like some Irish serial killer in the 1800s in Ireland, and he ends up in Boston. Oh, fucking hell. Whoa. It's...
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah. So I wonder what they're reading into it and what actually...
So do you think things like that weren't actually, them finding this information? It just kind of conveniently, for the purposes of the documentary, nicely all slid into the timeline. Is that, yeah. I think a lot. I think I definitely agree with you in that part, because I was like, sure, then you could have looked at one of the other videos and heard the song, and he's singing, John Lennon, War is Over, so this is Christmas. Okay, that's about Christmas in a war-torn country. I don't know what country it's. Let's say it's Rwanda. He's gone to Rwanda. Like, they could have ended up anywhere in the fucking world, couldn't they?
Yeah. He's in Syria. He's in Aleppo. You know, it's.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And like I said, so that's the cliffhanger it ends on then going into episode 3. So they're like, he's gone to Paris. So then, you know, episode 3 is kind of how it's making news all over the world. And, you know, obviously he's this narcissist who wants notoriety. He wants to be known as a famous killer. I think are we all in agreement there? This is his end goal.
Yeah. But he's not, he didn't kill enough to do it.
Yeah. He's starting to make a name for himself at this point. And like, it's funny because it was making news all over the world, but like I didn't know about this case until after the fact. Like I heard about this case before I watched the documentary, but I don't remember any of that at all. So I don't know how much.
He literally failed.
Yeah, I don't know how much the Interpol stuff though makes its way to Ireland though. Yeah, I think Ireland kind of tends to focus predominantly on Irish news. And like I don't recall that ever making news over here. But again, I know it was quite spoiler alert, it was quite soon between him going to Paris and being caught eventually. So maybe it just didn't have the time to travel. But yeah, like he's looking for notoriety. He goes to Paris. They find kind of like this blog post that he did. Do you remember this? Like maybe a year previous, about how to disappear. So they're like, this guy knows how to disappear, but yet he's using his card. You know, he's getting caught on CCTV cameras. He wants to disappear and he doesn't want to fucking disappear. He wants to be found. He's still breadcrumbing them. He's still, you know, making sure that they know where he is, while in his own deluded mind living this elusive, you know, villain on the run, serial killer on the run. And then they talk about like how the French authorities are letting know, and there's like 40 Interpol officers ready to get him on the other side. But sure, again, the word travels, gets across the pond to them. He's already landed. He's gotten a taxi. He's gone to a hotel that he checks into for one night. Do you remember this? And doesn't even stay in the room. He's still like talking with them, still playing this cat and mouse. You know, he really thinks he's the shit. Like we said earlier, this liken of, you know, catch me if you can. He's goading them the whole time. He wants to believe he's like of superior intelligence to them, and you know, this elusive villain. And then he
wants to be a psychopath.
Absolutely. At this point, then it cuts back to the mother again, and she's talking about his childhood and his upbringing. What did you think when you heard that? Because I mean, you were the one who touched on it there at the head of the podcast. You know, nature versus nurture. What's happened in this guy's life to make you behave this way? When she does talk us through his childhood, what did you feel? Did you feel any compassion?
It's all, you almost say like, yeah, there's the root of the problem right there. You know what I mean? There's the issue. Not that it was fully a nurture thing, but like obviously a genetic predisposition, and then the nurture took control and, you know, messed him up royally.
So for anybody listening who hasn't yet watched the documentary, if you're waiting for our synopsis first, and then what we're talking about here is the mother, this is not word perfect, but she basically says that Luca was a really shy child, which is often the case, loved movies and kind of regressed, escaped into movies. He was bullied non-stop throughout his childhood to the point that she actually had to pull him out of school. She had to homeschool him. He got, obviously because he was bisexual, he got called gay, faggot, and she said his self-worth diminished to the point where he just would spend all of his time indoors watching movies, until then at 16 he decides to move to Toronto to become a model and an actor. And you said correctly, Roxy, we see this, like we saw earlier, the footage of him auditioning for that reality show where you're a model. It's something like Canada's version of, I don't know, Project Runway or something. And she's saying how like he didn't make it, and this was a massive blow to him because Films were his only solace, his only sanctuary in life, and the only thing where he thought he could be of worth or of value. And he then turns to escorting, male escorting. And then he's making a lot of money. He's a very, very popular, successful escort. And then, absolutely. and then talks about how, and she doesn't explain how she becomes aware of this, but his clientele, for whatever reason, it switches to these, nice, wealthy men to wealthy guys, but there's a dark side. They're domineering, they're dangerous, they're dark. They seem to be people with I don't know, like, she doesn't say links to the mafia, but that's what she's kind of alluding to. These are people who know people who've got connections you don't fuck with. And she's very concerned, and she expresses that concern to him that, you're getting involved in something that you may think is very glamorous, but like you're a kid and you've no control over. And at this point, then we're introduced to the elusive Manny. So this is apparently this client that initially Luca starts seeing, but then he's this dark, domineering, dangerous force that the mother is speaking about. And we kind of get a look into that then. So I don't know if you remember, it then kind of skips to the lawyer who looks like Michael Douglas. So they're talking to this guy, and he says how Luca comes into his office, this is a couple of years previously, and says, I need a lawyer. I've been forced to do things. Doesn't really say how. He doesn't say like at gunpoint, or I don't want to put words in there, but he's forced to do these perverse things, and that by this violent and abusive boyfriend of his, Manny, and that they're then recorded, and that Manny is making like incredible money selling these videos on the dark web. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
It's
so
bullshit, really.
It is 100%. Yeah.
And like, was that your initial? Were you initially like 100% bullshit?
Yeah.
Yes, are better detectives than I have to be honest. When I heard this first, I was like, because I think I looked at Luca, and although he seemed like an absolute, like, he looks like a gobshite, he looks like a tool, he looks really self-involved, but he's really quite frail. He's a small frame, he's a small guy. I just don't know if I thought I suppose he didn't look like a killer. Look, it's like what we said, So when this initially was introduced, the idea of Manny, and then, there was these hospital reports coming through. Do you remember that as well? These were all being faxed through to the lawyer. Hospital reports. He was raped and he was hospitalized. He said that Manny had drugged him, and I don't know, was it brought to Miami or Florida, and he was found on the beach, raped by policemen. And this police, file was this was filed, and this was all being sent to the lawyer as like, look, this is what Manny is doing and what he has done. And again, this is a couple of years previous. So like, as you've said correctly, it all ended up being bullshit. But he started sowing those seeds. He started getting this alibi sorted, didn't he? Well in advance of his decision to murder, or maybe had already decided to murder at this stage. What do you think of that?
Yeah, he was pre-setting it, and I think he
was getting the attention.
Yeah, they made the most out of the whole Manny thing, and made the whole, the documentary makers now, I'm saying, like, they've made the most out of that to try and make it a kind of a wow
acceptable
moment,
for what he done, basically, kind of thing. But like says, he was brought up, he was bullied and all this kind of crap. So this is a man that really looking and craving for this attention. Like, he failed with the modelling.
Yeah.
That was no go. So what other way now can I get attention?
Yeah.
I'll do this whole kitten thing. And progressed. And then he makes up all these allegations with the whole rape. He was an escort and all that. Yeah, he done that. He got his money.
Like, the other side of it as well, I mean, I don't know personally, to be honest with you. I don't know what a male rape kit includes, or what, they're testing for. But I mean, they do a rape kit, and it is determined that he has been raped. What the fuck did he, this is the shit. This is the length he's going to make this credible. And like I said, this is, I think it's like 2 years in advance of the actual murder. So he's creating his alibi 2 years in advance of the murders taking place. Again, I think that's an impressive level of intelligence. I mean, he's dedicated. You've got to give him that. Like, that's what do you like? You know, what when you saw that? I mean, because you said you didn't buy it from the get go. So what was your initial reaction? Were you like, holy fuck, this is like, you know?
I thought he may have been raped, or it was another one of his false allegations, and it wasn't a preemptive thing to allay a future prosecution.
No.
It was just another attention-seeking aspect of his personality.
I mean, like, yeah, he did get, with the whole escort thing. He got with them that was into the whole BDSM and all that crack. I assume, don't mean to be vulgar or anything, but I assume the whole rape kit is to check the anus, basically. And with the whole BDSM, obviously, it's going to be rough and everything. So, I mean, it's going to look like he's been raped.
Again, do you think it was something that it was just, don't want to use it, happy coincidence isn't the right term, but it was this happy coincidence that happened in his past that then conveniently he could work into? It wasn't something, you don't think it was something he kind of set up years in advance?
No. I think they're giving him too much credit for what he wants
to portray.
Why he's doing this in the first place, to be seen as this super uber intelligent genius. And the documentary are feeding him to turn him into that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So they're giving him his wish of what he wanted, instead of just him being a fucking. He is really, at the end of the day, a stupid person.
Yeah,
an idiot.
She's like, this is great, because like this is normally just me kind of bouncing my ideas around for 35 or 40 minutes or whatever. It's really interesting to see somebody else's take on it, and like, because you have a completely different take on that than me. I never even thought of it like that. I just instantly, I was like, oh yeah, this, he's that messed up. But like you said, like when you watched it, your take on it was that he just happened to work these historical happenings into his narrative. It's not something that he actually set up, and therefore he's not that intelligent.
Yeah.
I honestly generally don't think he was actually smart enough. It was just convenient.
Yeah, if I was going to do it, there'd be definitely 20 deaths before I'd start hinting at anything of who I am.
Yeah.
And I've about 11 already.
Not 12 now.
You'll be 12 soon.
Thanks.
The bodies are starting to pile up.
Yeah, it's getting rough. It's getting rough in the shed.
And like that's, like I said, it's great though. It's great to see somebody else's take on it. And then like, obviously there's the whole culmination of the 3 episodes, and that's when he's then found in classic Luca style. I say like I know him, but you know what I mean? He's caught in an internet cafe. What's he fucking doing? He's looking up his own Interpol posting. Like, his vanity at the end of the day is what if he just stayed on the run. The fact that he goes into this internet cafe, and I mean, if you work in an internet cafe, you're on the feckin' internet, and of course, your man behind the counter, and he's in the documentary, isn't he? For the briefest of moments, kind of explaining how he's literally goes in, opens up the shop, he's behind the counter on the laptop, Interpol thing for this guy, and he goes, and then I look up and he's in front of me. It's just, his jaw hits the ground, and he goes up and logs into, I think it's computer 25, and then he's like, and then I go up to empty the ashtrays, and I see that he's looking at his own post, his Interpol post. So I know it's him. There's that removes all doubt, like. So luckily then there's like the Berlin police, the Gardaí, whatever they call them over there, they're doing a little training exercise on the same street. He literally runs out into the street, flags them down, explains what he's got in the store. Like 10 or 12 officers run in and handcuff him. And rather poetically, I think as well, this is all caught on CCTV footage. And of course, it's uploaded onto the internet. And this is how John Green and Deanna Thompson become aware, which is kind of full circle, isn't it? Because it's all been done online. And this is now how they learn of it as well. So they talk about waking up that morning. And I think they have, I don't know how many missed calls and 5 million notifications.
And yeah, I remember one of the notifications that it shows, like, drops up on the screen. It's like, you know, body movement's going to lose her knickers or something like that. Like when she sees this, you know, and then of course she sees it and she's like, there it is.
And that's probably telling of what the thrill she was getting out of it too.
Yeah. that's they knew her that well. They knew what her kink was like.
Yeah.
But then so he's obviously caught. There's this media circus. I think it's the mother who likens it to O.J. Simpson. Do you remember that? She's like, it was ridiculous, like the media attention. This is like, oh, you know, he had like what do you call it when the motorcade? He's got a motorcade coming from the airport, and he's paraded in front of the press and all of this, and you know, there's then this lovely juxtaposition, this shot where you have Deanna going, this is not some dumb shit. He played us for 2 years, and then it cuts straight to Anna, and she's like, I thought it was completely, you know, exaggerated. All I saw was a young boy, scared and confused. He's afraid of Manny, you know. And then they get him assessed because again, if you can throw your mind back to when you watch it, do you remember this? It shows the footage of him in the holding cell and the detective investigating him. And the detective, again, like me, he's like, I see the small, meek guy. Interestingly, he goes, I see a puppy, not a killer, which it's interesting because he's killed a puppy.
He killed a puppy.
Yeah.
And they get him assessed by a psychologist because they're starting to doubt it themselves that it could be him. And so this detective comes on, and I just remember him because he keeps looking down the camera, and that's one of my pet peeves. I'm like, Jesus, would the director not just tell him to stop spiking the shagging camera? He keeps looking down the lens instead of looking, you know. And they're talking to him, and they assess him, and he's talking about how he's pretty convinced of this Manny. You know, they're and again, at this point, for me at least, I know you were saying you didn't buy it, but I was kind of like, shit, maybe this Manny person does exist, because they talk about this second set of hands in the video. Do you remember this? The video with the kitten and the python?
Yeah.
So the kitten is like the camera is set up and the python is already in frame, and Luca is in frame, and this other set of hands puts the kitten on the bed. So they see this as pretty, I don't know, good evidence that there's a second person involved. What did you think when you saw that then? Did that throw you at all that there might be a Manny?
It did a bit, but I can't remember what followed up after that to get rid of those fears again. I'm not sure what happened.
Because they don't really ever address that again in the documentary. I think it's probably one of, you might disagree, I would think it's one of the very few failings this documentary has, but it throws that in and it doesn't ever explain it. And I had to Google it afterwards. And again, I'll get to that at the end. But yeah, I just wondered if that did throw you then, because that, again, I was already kind of like, shit, maybe there's a Manny. And now this is, I'm like, holy crap, you know, another twist in the case. There actually is a Manny. So that's what I was wondering, what you thought of that.
I wish there was a bit more about him and his treatment afterwards.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they have plenty of footage and audio recordings of him speaking and what he says and what he thinks and what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a few different opinions from a few different psychologists that were neutral and not taken in by his boyish, lost little boy persona.
Because what they end up doing then is, I mean, for the purposes of the documentary and the narrative, obviously, you know, they're trying to get through an 8-point story arc and they're trying to get from A to B and they're trying to sell a story to us. So they have to omit certain things. But basically, and I really liked how they did this. I don't know whether you agree with me, but they then do the kind of montage of the realization of everything. And this is definitely a part where I'd agree with you. I think a lot of this was luck, but they then fit it into the narrative. So they go back to the murder video.
It was definitely a usual suspects. The cup breaks, Kaiser Sose, all the voices coming.
I really liked it though. I mean, that's, I was like,
it was cool, but it was so cheesy and clutching at straws. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, they just ruined it. You know, to me, they ruined it. Because
so it was...
they were almost giving him what he wanted in the end. Yeah. He was this evil genius, and look at how we tied everything together, you know. But like, going back to the whole Manny thing, like he's easily traced. If they can find Luca himself through all the little things he done, well then Manny would be easily found as well, you know.
Yeah. And look, I can appreciate your frustration because like this is, you know, he's a bad guy, and I suppose you're right in what you're saying. The documentary, it does glamorize, or at least, you know,
glamorizes his intelligence, or supposed to.
Which he may not be that intelligent. A lot of things might have just conveniently fell into place. But I personally, don't kill me, but I did like that little montage. So again, for anybody listening who hasn't seen the documentary yet, spoiler alerts here again, but what they do is, because it's kind of building to this crescendo, right? And the detectives are like, shit, maybe there is a Manny. And they're kind of at that peak. And then they realize, because he's saying, you know, this Manny, when they look into it, they can't find any trace of a Manny. And though I think the nail in the coffin really is the fact that he says the night the murder took place, Manny is sitting outside the apartment block. Do you remember this? In a black SUV. And he's ringing him with instructions of what to do in the video, because this is a made-to-order snuff movie, he's claiming. But of course, there's not any trace of phone calls. It's basic shit. I mean, that's very simple to either verify. You could do that. I could do that. We don't really need any police equipment to do that. So they're able to very easily see that these calls never took place, and that there just doesn't seem to be any sight of Manny other than these police reports, you know, a couple of years previously. And then the little montage is with Deanna and John kind of going, Manny, where have we heard that name before? And this is where I'm talking about with the basic instinct, because I did initially think of this when I heard the word ice pick, but that was the extent of it, because I'd never seen the movie, so the rest of it didn't kind of click in. But they look back at the murder video and they realize that he's, you know, tied up John Lynn, he's straddling him. The angle of the camera, the Casablanca photo, it's nearly a perfect recreation of the scene in Basic Instinct. Again, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. Where Sharon Stone's character murders a guy with an ice pick. She's on top of him, straddling him in the bed in a compromising position, and she pulls out the ice pick, which obviously in Luca's case was this sprayed silver, you know, whatever it was, some kind of a screwdriver or something. And then they realize that the alias that he used in France was Kay Trammell. That's Sharon Stone's name in Basic Instinct, her character's name. And in Basic Instinct, she uses this line about being like, what is it? Smoking is better than sex or something like that. And Luca used a similar phrase in one of his breadcrumbs. They also realize then that when he's captured and brought back to Canada, that CCTV footage where we see him in the police holding cell, he asks for a stick. I do remember this scene because this is the infamous scene from Basic Instinct, the crossing and uncrossing of the legs and the smoke of the flag. He reenacts that in full view of the officer and on CCTV footage. And then, like I said, the final nail in the coffin is that her character in that film is in an abusive relationship with this guy called Manny. And then that's where they ascertain that Manny has just been a complete fabrication of his mind. And the other nice little nod that I don't think they really harped on about, but the fact that he went to a lawyer that looked like Michael Douglas. Do you remember that? It shows that the lawyer, and he's like, and then I think he walked into the office. The first thing he fucking said to me was like, anybody ever tell you look like Michael Douglas? No, you're just kind of like, Jesus, this guy was just. Do you think maybe there's a bit of, I don't know, schizophrenia at play? Do you think it's a departure from reality, or is this guy just? What do you think? It's
hard to know. It's a kind of a mix between the two, isn't it? Like, I don't know. I just feel the documentary makers are giving him more credit than he deserves or merits, you know.
I suppose what I'm saying is, do you think this guy is just fucked up, or do you think there is something actually maybe mentally, physically, you know, mentally
I think
wrong
it's
with
just
him?
Oh, there's definitely something mentally wrong with him, obviously. But then how much blame can you apportion to him? You know, it depends on his, like, I don't know what his status is. I don't know what he's been diagnosed with. You know, I don't know.
And like it ends it there. And the parting shot then, of course, and for me personally, I didn't like this. I did like the montage, and oh yes, I did. I liked that. But this bit, I remember the first time I watched it, not so much the second or third. First time I watched it, I was like, for fuck, you just ruined the whole thing. When at the end, do you remember this, where Deanna looks straight down the camera, because it's a pet peeve of mine. So she breaks the fourth wall, she looks down the camera and she goes, you know, are you complicit? Are we all complicit, you know, by having this online life, by giving people the attention they crave? Do we push them to go too far? You know, now I'm totally paraphrasing, this is not what she says, but she's basically saying, you know, it's time, I think her parting words are, it's time to shut down the machine, and it goes to black straight away. What did you think of that? It wasn't just me then.
She is complicit.
Yeah.
She more than us.
Yeah.
Did she drive him on?
And she does allude to that in her defense. Like, she's incredibly self-aware, because I think it's in the first episode even she says that she goes, I think.
Yeah, she gave him the initial attention, and would he have went to kill if he wasn't hunting her for the animal cruelty?
Yeah.
She said that she goes through a spectrum of shame after the murder, because she wonders if she pushed him to do it because he saw, because he was, they found out as well that obviously he was part of this online Facebook group, so he could see what they were saying about him. He was under an alias, and they knew this, and then she was like, was the attention that we were giving him just too delicious to give up?
Yeah.
If they'd ignored him, what would have happened?
Exactly. It was all attention.
What when you saw this documentary for the first time, because I know obviously you had watched it before I gave you the task of rewatching it, what were your initial thoughts after the documentary? I mean, was there anything that you know particularly stood out for you, like favorite points or things that just didn't wash with you, or things you wish they had done differently?
I think with me, it's the poor fella that killed himself in the first episode. Do you know how they introduced the famous guy with the $5,000, and that just got a load of fake people on to turn it into a soap drama, and it resulted in that man, even though he was a troll and he did kind of throw himself in the deep end, to be fair, but he ended up losing his life.
He wanted attention too, but it came too much.
It came way too much. It was kind of a sad part of the story.
As I hinted at earlier, I'm just pissed off. People are giving him so much praise for being so intelligent. And you're like,
he's not.
He's not. You know what I mean? It kind of annoys me when people go, oh my God, he's so smart. See the way he's, and I'm like, is that what you read into it? No.
Do you think it's like insensitive on the part of the documentary makers, or, you know, I guess to John Lynn's memory and maybe to that of his family, and that you're, you know,
not really that it's insensitive. They have to sell it, don't they? So they have to have the usual suspects crescendo, and have to have that kind of, you know, South Parkian montage, everybody. So like it's almost, they had to have it. They had to do it. They read into it a lot more than I suppose I would.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm a genius myself, so you know,
it's that thing as well, I think, of like, you know, with documentary making and that, it's a fine line, because obviously, as I said earlier, you need that 8-point story arc, you need that hook, you need the black moment, you need, you know what I mean? It's the quest, it's the basic story structure. You have to hit all those points in order for the story to work.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to do a little bit of embellishment. But yeah, I would agree with you in that I think maybe morally a line might have been crossed. Personally, I didn't like about this documentary, apart from Deanna breaking the fourth wall. I won't go on about it again. You know my feelings on that. But I didn't like the use of, again, if I don't know if you remember, when they were talking about John Lynn, they used footage of, I don't know if it's a mass, but some kind of memorial service with his parents. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
to me, that's just, I don't even care if you got permission from the family. I just feel like that's, no.
It was too far.
Too
Yeah.
far. And maybe that's just me being Irish. I know they're American and Canadian.
No, it was too far, really.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought if that was the only thing I'd really, in terms of the production qualities, in terms of all the razzle dazzle, you know, that you come to expect from a Netflix true crime documentary, it had it in spades. And like, I know you said even probably too much for your liking. It was a bit too laid on a bit too thickly, but
I'm not easily impressed with anything anyway. I'm like,
No.
True to character.
probably more jealous that I didn't make it. So it's just, yeah, it's all right, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Or like what I always say when I'm doing these podcasts as well, I'm like, you know, I'm sure, you know, whatever the director is, Mark Lewis, I'm sure Mark Lewis is listening to this and been like, holy shit, there's a fourth year college student in Ireland who doesn't like my work. Well, you know, fuck me, I'm just, that's it, I quit, like, you know. I'm you know, as if I know it all, as if I've been in the industry for as long.
Yeah, I had a moment like that when I wanted to give up, when I got a Snapchat video from a guy in Oman who had an eagle and he was hunting in the desert and he was shouting out, "Farmer Michael, you are a cunt."
You're shitting me.
I was like, yeah, that's, my job is done. I have reached a nomadic tribesmen in the desert in Oman.
Yeah.
I like, that's it. I can't do any more than that. You know what I mean? So I was like, I can live up safely now.
I think I'll be there if I ever make it onto Reeling in the years. Make it onto Reeling in the years, I'll be like, that's it. I'm peaked. I can't possibly do any more with my career now.
I was kind of pissed off because they had a thing about the most watched videos in, I don't know what year it was, and it was like, I think it was some video anyway, like the Ketchum Dairy one was number one.
Oh jeez, yeah.
I wasn't even in the top 10, even though I had more views than the next 7 combined.
Oh no way!
I'm a bit pissed off at that. It just shows how bad whoever put them together, or they just ignore it because I say a curse word.
But do you know what? Right? I don't want to talk about this stuff, but my brother is an actor, and he was in kind of one of the best loved Irish films. I don't know if you've ever seen it, The Wind That Shakes the Barley. So himself and Cillian Murphy play two brothers, and my brother.
Oh, cool.
Spoiler alert: my brother ends up killing Cillian Murphy. But anyway, there was a thing done there a couple of weeks ago. It was like the top 20 greatest Irish films of all time, and I think like The Wind That Shakes the Barley was literally. It was the highest grossing film in Ireland that had ever been made, and it kept that record until I think it was 5 or 6 years later when The Guard came out. And it didn't even make the top 10. we sent this link to my brother, and he was just like, fuck those guys who made that list. He was like, you know, and he was like, my left foot isn't even in it. Like, so yeah,
it's annoying though, because looking back when they started making Reeling in the Years for that century or that decade, they might include some of that because the internet took over, and they might include clips from the top viewed clips of that year or this year or that. So I won't make it in because they'll go with that.
You just release your own edit. You just
I just
an idea for another video.
Wrong. Yeah. You're wrong.
Really badly edit yourself in, like copy and paste, you know, stick and paste.
Tag ID and just go like, you messed up. Here's the fact. Here's the stats to go on them.
A whole video of a Farmer Michael rant on why you didn't make it into Reeling in the Years. I think that's brilliant. There's potential in everything, script and everything.
We're used to RT ignoring us anyway, so that's not new.
So guys, look, we digress. Get back to the documentary. I think when I looked it up, I think I did say this. Yeah, I was trying to think. Did I actually say this earlier in the podcast? I did. That there were some things I found out afterwards that I thought had been left out of the documentary and maybe could have been put in, and maybe you won't agree with me, but just some interesting points of note. The first thing I thought was interesting was that the father, Luca's father, was schizophrenic. He was diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic, and you'd have to wonder then. It doesn't say anything about Luca being diagnosed. Just to put that out there as well, nothing that I could find, or any real notes on him, you know, in terms of his psychology since he's been jailed, and obviously jailed. He got prison for life for first-degree murder. His real name is not Luca Roccamagnolo. Again, maybe I'm just really, maybe you saw that coming. I didn't, because his ma calls him that throughout the thing as well. So I just assumed that was his name. And I know they don't have the same surname, but again, that was just like, you know, sure she had him young and maybe wasn't married, given the dad's surname or whatever. His real name is the far less Latino sounding, but I think maybe quite Hollywood sounding, Eric Clinton Kirk Newman. It sounds like a combination of, you know, all these actors of yesteryear. Yeah. And that he was done for fraud in 2005, so it wasn't his first run-in with the law. And he had also declared bankruptcy, perhaps less surprisingly, in 2007. So the other thing is that him now being 38 and obviously he's still serving life, he got married in prison. Did you look into this, or did you see this on your travels?
No.
Yeah, he got married in prison, so he signed up. Like, you'd have to kind of wonder as well what kind of prison system that Canada actually has. They have an online dating Canadian prison pen pal system thing that they have going on.
Oh, Canada.
I swear to God. Yeah. And that just seems like, you know, should give them every comfort in life. Like, you know, they haven't had it hard enough, God love them. He's only out there killing cats and people, like, you know, it's a tough out slog. He signs up for this, becomes pen pals with another murderer. I can't remember what the details of that guy's conviction were, but it did say that he was a killer. This guy called Anthony Jolin, and they got married in 2012, and they're very happily married.
Oh my God!
I know.
There's no even word.
El Bizarro.
A pure God help us.
Yeah. Pure God help us.
Yeah. It got 8, a very impressive 8 on IMDb, and as you know, IMDb is really, really hard to get those 8s. It's hard for true crime to get above about a 7.2 is the average. And then Rotten Tomatoes, I think it got 67%, which maybe isn't as impressive, maybe a little bit harder marked on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't tend to give a mark myself. I feel that's a bit mean, and I like to put good energy out into the universe. Don't only slay it anyone, but look, simply, would you recommend it to a friend?
It's worth watching, but I don't know. How do you say that it would be better for people of a lower
you can say that. Yeah, you can say that. Absolutely. That it's like it's set at it's for entertainment maybe than education.
Yeah. Well, like it was recommended. I mean, I remember going into work when all that was coming out, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, have you seen Don't Fuck with Cats yet?"
Yeah.
So I mean,
you get sucked up with the whole promotion. You do get sucked in with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I think it was Oscar Wilde that said about the Giant's Causeway. It's worth seeing, but not going to see.
Another thing I'd say about it as well was the fact that it was on Netflix. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, have you seen that yet?" If that was a documentary released on TT Cahir or TV3 or Virgin Media or whatever, I don't think anybody would be that interested.
Yes,
might be different elevation.
Netflix have the money to get people.
I think it's because it's a binge-worthy thing on Netflix.
Yeah. They have that shiny, sparkly way of branding things, and I'd like to look. Let's face it, if you get Netflix behind you, and in fact, Netflix commissioned this from Mark Lewis. So look, they wanted it made, so they were going to put the big bucks behind it. But as I said, look, my take would be the same. I think it's probably, in terms of a documentary or true crime documentary, it's probably the Kardashians. Like it's I don't want to say inoffensive, but like, you know, you can throw it on in the background. You don't really need to pay too much attention. And it's funny. it's funny because Deanna is funny, body moving as we're online. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really
thank you for having us.
I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I had. Like I said, it's lovely to see another perspective on these things as well and bounce ideas off people. And I love it when they don't agree with me. This is great. You had a totally different take on it. So that's definitely.
You're stupid. Our ideas are better.
Kind of sounded like we were stuck inside a Spanish fucking guitar there or something. I don't know what was going on with the audio. Apologies, guys. But like I said, I hope you did enjoy the banter between myself, Sir Stevo Timothy, and Roxy as well. I thought they were brilliant guests, and I had a right crack with them, and I'm looking forward to having them back on again in the future. But look, guys, as always, we are What's Up Doc. We are the true crime documentary podcast. If you'd like to show your support, make sure to head on over to Apple Podcasts, where you can rate us, you can review us, you can subscribe as well. And if you'd also like to follow us on social media, we are What's Up Doc Podcast, and that's on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter as well. Thanks for listening, guys. Good luck. Good night. God bless.